Multilingual people, have you ever had funny cases when someone didn't expect you to understand their language?
Early in my relationship with my husband, he sleepily said something to me in his first language as we were lying in bed. I didn't know what he said, but the way he mumbled it to me made me think it was super romantic. He fell asleep before I could ask what he said. A few days later, we're in the same situation, and he says it again. I wake him this time and ask him what he said and repeat it back to him best I could. He says,
Going good
"That
so
means
far.
you're heavy." Apparently, I was lying on his arm. Edit, typo, edit 2. He spoke Punjabi for those wondering.
That's kinda cute, but according to Reddit standards means you should divorce him.
I told him that Reddit says we should divorce, and he said if I leave, he keeps the cat.
Oh.
Looks like I'm in this for at least the next 9 years, guys.
I got hit.
That's okay. I
Nice
never have any
seeing.
good stories, so I just sit here and laugh at everyone else's. My only story that's semi-relevant is sort of the opposite.
careful.
I took German for 4 years, so my
Yeah,
BF is
no.
constantly shouting
This is not
jumbles of
good.
loud, angry-sounding, made-up words at me and asking what they mean in German, e.g. Heichtensteinlich,
That's
what does
right.
that mean? Translate that. Also, he asked me to translate the German in every W1 True movie we watch. So annoying.
Heichtensteinlich, WTF. Can't even imagine what he tried to say. Maybe Liechtenstein? The country?
No, he never actually has any words that he's actually trying to pronounce. He just takes a whole lot of German prefixes and suffixes and mashes them together and hopes he said a real word. He basically thinks if you yell loudly in an angry Nazi voice and make German noises, then at some point you've probably said at least one German word, even if only by mistake. Edit. Autocorrect has made a fool of me once again.
Was in an elevator in NY and there were 2 Japanese girls. One said I was kinda cute, and as I got off, I told them my room number in Japanese. They giggled. I got off, and unfortunately, never saw them again. Japanese girls. They giggled story checks out. My mom has the best story about this. She was raised with French English and spent many years as a kid in Morocco. On my parents' honeymoon, they go to Morocco and go to a synagogue on a Saturday morning there. We're Jewish. My mom goes
This
to
is
sit with the
a
other
bit
women,
confusing
and they start
here.
making snide remarks. Americans, stupid
where
Americans,
I have to go
and
from
insulting her appearance. This went on and on for the duration of the service. After the service, my mom gets to the exit before the other ladies, turns around to all of them, and in perfect French with a perfect
Where is the
accent,
way?
tells them she hopes they have a wonderful day, a pleasant Shabbat, and that she looks forward to coming back soon. The women just were in complete awe and didn't know what to do. Their jaws dropped, followed by complete silence. Glorious. Having complete science is great.
It's
Tell
so
me about
dark,
it.
Like
I failed chemistry and I have always
wasn't
regretted
even
it.
able to-
Ditto.
like, I wasn't
I was
even
never
able
good
to
at
see
physics.
this
Followed
naturally.
by complete science. Did it blind everyone in the synagogue? She hit them with technology.
I was in Belgium riding a train, and these 3 Spanish guys around my age
I
sit in the
can
same
increase the
booth as me
brightness if I'm on
because
the-
the train was pretty crowded. They're speaking
Like,
Spanish to
give
each
me
other
some
and
better
going on about the
visibility.
different girls on the train and pulling up pictures of
this
girls on their
is-
phones, and then one of them changes the conversation to me and they're all
is
smirking.
better.
I just sat there trying to keep a straight face until the train gets to my stop and I stand up and say, in Spanish, "You have nice boobs too," and promptly exit the train.
But did he really have nice boobs? Yeah, I want to know more about his boobs. Yeah, for science.
I was on holiday in Jordan and went to visit their downtown. This area is beautiful, has all sorts of cultural bits and pieces, and amazing food at great prices. If you go there, you need to haggle every price. Even the locals do. So I enter this shop, and the shopkeeper at the door tells his colleague, "Oh yes, European foreigner, let's see how much we can overprice stuff." I kid you not, he said that, but in Arabic, which I can speak fluently having an Arab father. Note, I'm very pale with brown hair and blue eyes. Not typical in that region. I ask about the cost of a
Do the
beautiful
voucher?
Arabian plate
I
in
think I
English,
did.
and he gives me an insane price.
yeah.
I look him in the eye and say, "Now that you know I'm a
have to
local,
go
how
here
much
and
does it
check
cost?"
out.
In fluent Arabic. His eyes pop out of his head, and then he starts laughing, saying,
Yes.
"You heard me at the door, didn't you?" I smile and nod, and then he says, "I
So
guess I
far,
deserve
not that
that.
hard.
That plate isn't worth much. I'll give it to you as a
Oh.
gift for giving me a good laugh."
Oh, man.
I was on the Greek island
was
of Rhodes once. Rhodes gets a lot of tourists, particularly from Germany. I had a conversation with a Greek taxi driver. He said, in English, "You American? Good. American good. British good. German. Not so much. German go to beautiful mountain, complain about toilets." I chuckled a bit at his stereotypes.
nice.
2 hours later, I was at the beautiful Mount Philaramos, spectacular view, beautiful day, ancient sites, etc. And what do I
This is the
overhear?
hardest
A
part, I
loud
think, of the
conversation in
game.
German complaining about the toilets.
German
Oh,
here.
Yes.
One of my friends told me a story of his brother. Both of them once met a group of American women. His brother wanted to ask them for a mobile phone, but instead used the term handy. which is what we call mobile phones in German all the time. Well, imagine someone saying, "Can you give me a handy to you?"
Oh.
Bonus if you're a woman. Their
pressed
facial expressions
spaces
must have been
too
priceless.
quickly.
Reminds me of some differences in British and American English. In England, you ask someone for a rubber if you want an eraser. In America, you ask someone for a rubber if you want a condom. You can see how this could end poorly.
I'm from New Zealand, and my workmate is from England. Even though we both speak English, one of us will often say something that the other doesn't understand. We always just go language barrier, and other people get really confused because we're speaking the same language.
I am in Korea teaching English. I'm from Canada and speak fluent French. My girlfriend is Korean and knows no French. We were walking around a fortress in Suwon, and there were some French guys ahead of us. My gal and I are conversing in English, and they pay us no mind. But I am listening. The two were going into great detail about their sexual escapades with all the Korean girls they have nailed. Like, a lot of specific information. So we all end up in a pavilion and sit down to see the sights. They leave a few minutes later, and I say casually, "Bonne journée, les gars." Have a good day, guys. They smiled for 1.5 seconds and then realized that the American guy, everyone assumes, heard everything they said. They turned pale and sauntered off.
Bonne journée, les gars. The R is
Oh,
sliant.
wrong
Crazy, I know. Funny story, by the way. Please note that I'm not trying to be a dick here.
Oh god, I called them gassy. Ha ha ha. I was smoking an e-cigarette on the tube
Still,
while sitting
again,
next to
wrong
3
job.
Korean girls.
I think I have to.
This was before e-cigs were popular back in
Do this.
2008. Being British but having a Korean wife was useful. They started talking about how I was so wide and that they couldn't believe I was smoking on the tube. They even said English people were so inconsiderate and that they were going to get off at the next stop because they didn't like the
Not
smell of
from here,
smoke.
I could go
After they
here.
finished their rant, I just turned to them and said in Korean that they
got
shouldn't
this
assume
on
people
this.
can't understand them in public
think
and that
I
it wasn't a
can.
real
Yes, I
cigarette,
can.
there was no smoke fumes, and that I'm getting off at the next stop so they needn't bother. They were shocked and just looked like deer in headlights. Then everyone else in the carriage erupted in cheers and applause, and a cute girl came up to me asking for my babies. Oh wait, no they didn't, because this isn't Tumblr, and it actually happened. I refuse to believe that the last part
man.
didn't happen. I might have tripped
I'm
on my
going
way
to
out
school
or made
fast.
myself look stupid some other way upon my exit as usual. But
Nice.
no
I
applause
can-
was heard.
We had this
Character
Chinese
angle
place near campus
so you
where
can
everyone
jump
spoke
properly.
Chinese. Where everyone spoke Chinese. Although I know Chinese too, I always spoke to them in English because I'm a bit shy about my accent. So I usually get rice and meat from them, but this time I already had rice ready at home, so I decided to go in purely for the meat. So I go in, order without rice, give my money. Then I hear the cashier yelling in Chinese to the kitchen staff, "This fat asshole will only serve meat, no rice." I heard it very clearly and decided to add in Chinese. That's right, I have plenty of rice at home. Since then, they always give me extra, and by the way, they didn't charge me a penny for that order.
I am half Peruvian and half Swiss, but I live in Peru.
Whoa,
You can never tell from my
very, very
appearance that there
close.
is something Swiss about me. One time I'm on the bus and I hear 2 Swiss women sitting behind me chatting about the attractiveness of Latinos. Suddenly, one of them asks if her friend thinks I'm handsome. Without waiting for an answer, I abruptly turn to them and say, "Yeah, I was wondering the same thing." It was so hilarious. The expressions on their faces were priceless. Everything was there, shame and confusion. But now I have 2 new friends. Edit. They spoke Swiss German, Schweizerdeutsch. Edit 2. Later they confessed that they both found me attractive.
I lived in South Korea for 3 years, but I didn't learn much Korean. But during that time, I met an English-speaking Korean woman who was considered not local by everyone because she was very tall and spoke with a strong American accent that came from studying in the US and New Zealand. So when she went to an international university in South Korea, her professors thought she didn't speak Korean, so they often insulted her in front of her. She was very uncomfortable with this, but she didn't let it get to her and tolerated it for a year, until it was time to graduate. Until it was time for graduation. At graduation, she walked on stage in front of 800 people and gave her speech in perfect Korean, in which she casually reminded her professors how they called her a foreign pig. According to witnesses, one of the female teachers sobbed with shame right on the spot. I wish I had been there to see it.
I'm an American expat in Thailand, and I have a big beard, which that attracts a lot of attention. Locals, unaware that I understand them, sometimes like to shout in my direction, "Look, a monkey, monkey. Do you want a banana?" or some other nasty thing. Usually I just ignore it since I don't want to talk to them, but there was one instance where I couldn't take it. Kirch! I was followed by two young girls, about 14 years old, and just pissed me off with comments about the monkey, all running around, yelling, pissing me off. I stopped, looked directly at them, and said in plain Thai, "There are no blue-eyed monkeys. They have black eyes, like yours." Their speech was lost in a second. I am Spanish, but I don't look like that. I have light skin, blonde hair, and green eyes. When I lived in London, I got into a lot of funny situations. My favorite is when I was riding the subway home from work one day. Anyway, there was a big soccer match that day, Chelsea versus Barcelona, and I found myself on the subway with a couple of fans who were on their way to the game. At one point, the subway came to an abrupt stop. I couldn't help myself and fell a little bit on one of them. And since I didn't know they were Spanish, I apologized to the guy in English. Let's keep going. He's been savoring this situation for about 5 minutes in Spanish. There are phrases like, "I wish that fat cum had hit the floor." Soon we get to their stop. They get off the subway, still making fun of me, and I shout, "Have a great game, shitheads," at them in plain Spanish. They're shocked. The door closes right in their face. God, that must have made me high for a week. Thank you for your attention, and remember, keep being awesome and curious. See you next time. P.S. Subscribe to the channel. Thanks.